Get in on the secret. September is one of the best times to visit the Boardwalk Plaza Hotel in Rehoboth Beach. The weather is grand, and just steps from the sand, you can relax and experience the convenience of their oceanfront location right on the Rehoboth Beach Boardwalk. Enjoy Victoria's Restaurant, the charming Plaza Pub and room service. Visit boardwalkplaza.com and book your perfect getaway today, or call 800-33-BEACH for fast, friendly assistance. Thanks to the Boardwalk Plaza for being the Bridge Podcast Network sponsor.
Well, Jesus was born a man, he lived a life, he died on the cross, was buried, rose again, and then ascended into heaven. And now Christians believe that Jesus is coming back. Why is that? I'm Mark Dickey.
And I'm Burt Miller.
This is the Why Do Christians podcast. Hey, welcome to the show. My name is Mark Dickey. I host the afternoon show on the Bridge radio station. My co-host, as always, is Pastor Burt Miller from Solid Ground Church. Burt, how are you today?
Mark, as always, Dickey.
Nice.
I'm fine. Yeah. I'm fine.
Always.
How are you? Man, look, we always ask how I am. And I feel like the lens should be flipped around. We should be looking at you and saying, hey, how's the world of Mark Dickey?
It's going really good.
Yeah?
It's going really
Great.
good.
Anything new that you'd like to share on the mic right now?
I'm playing with my band again.
Hey.
Yeah. And it's just really fun.
Okay. And you're drumming?
I'm playing drums.
Okay.
I know we mentioned it at some point in the podcast that I had to quit drums.
Right.
About 4 years ago, and it was this whole big stretching and growing thing.
You were so good at it, it was made illegal?
That's exactly what happened.
Okay.
The governor called, and
so you guys toned it down.
Got to shut this down
for the state.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but just been my diabetes medications have been really good, and I feel healthy. And I'm wondering if I could give it another shot, if my hands wouldn't hurt so much.
Oh, that's great, man. That's great.
So it's just really exciting. You know?
Yeah.
So, or it's just a midlife crisis.
Why can't it be both?
Did you see that commercial anyway? Why not both? So today, why do Christians think Jesus is coming back? I feel like I'm going to think of a better way to word that by the time we actually post this.
Okay.
Why do Christians think this? Why do Christians say Jesus is coming back? Why do they think this? Either way, that's the topic for today.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting to me that I forget all the time?
What?
We treat Jesus as a historical figure because he is, but the way you talk about historical figures is in the past tense.
Okay.
But Jesus died and rose again.
Yeah.
So he is currently alive.
And he's doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Okay.
That's just really neat.
Yeah.
Just to start off our conversation about the fact that he is coming back.
Right.
So
you want a fun Bible theology word for talking about the return of Jesus?
Yeah.
It's called the parousia, which means a coming. It typically talks about like the return of Jesus. It's the parousia. And as far as like,
it's kind of the opposite of saying see ya.
But I'm bummed. So the reason Christians believe that he's going to do that is for a number of reasons. Number one, because Jesus said that he'd come back, right? You got him talking about in Matthew 24 and John 14, this idea of, hey, I'm going to prepare a place for you. I'll come back and get you. You've got the apostles, like from the outset of the church, believing that Jesus would come back. There are prophecies about him coming back in the scriptures. And so it's a firmly rooted Christian belief that Jesus will return.
Can I make one more joke about the parousia?
I would prefer if you do.
It's like,
I insist that you do.
It's like the Irish goodbye, but it's the Peruvian goodbye. The parousia.
I don't get it.
Do you know what the Irish goodbye is?
No.
That's where you just leave a party without telling anybody.
Oh.
Yeah. So the Peruvian see ya, the Peruvian goodbye, see ya.
I feel like this is a stretch.
Is when you leave a party, but then you come back.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going to make it a thing. Hashtag why do Christians?
Okay.
So is this something that people all agree on?
I mean, as far as Christians go?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. There are all kinds of schools of thought on what this looks like, how things will play out, from like end times and Jesus' return. The only thing I could say that most Christians agree on is that Jesus is coming back.
Oh, cool.
As far as what that looks like, there are all kinds of different views on it. And usually they fit within, like, there'll be a branch of 4 different camps, but like the camps will, sort of break out from there. So think like big tree branches that then like spurt off into smaller branches.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's the idea, that there are 4 main branches, and then within that there are all kinds of
subcategories.
Yes. Yeah. So for instance, there's one. Well, let me rewind, okay? Because to understand them, I've got to read you some scripture.
Great.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. So this comes from like the source of controversy where things start to parse and divide out is Revelation chapter 20 verses 1 through 6, where the Apostle John, or John the Revelator, depending on who is interpreting it, like in terms of like what the church believes, because people disagree about which John is writing Revelation. We disagree about all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
All right. So John, who writes Revelation, has this vision in Revelation. I think we talked about before. Revelation means, or apocalypse, it means unveiling, right? So the apocalypse in the book of Revelation, it's not always completely future stuff, although that's there. It's also just going like, hey, here's stuff that happened in the past. This is behind the scenes stuff. But this event that's in Revelation 20 is almost certainly future. There will be one camp that will contest that, and we'll get to that. But generally speaking, so this is Revelation 20, starting verse 1, says this, and I saw an angel coming down out of heaven, having the keys to the abyss and holding in his hand a great chain. He seized the great dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil, or Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. Now, just keep in mind that phrase right there, 1,000 years. That's gonna be a big thing. Okay.
Okay.
All right. He threw him into the abyss and locked and sealed it over him to keep him from deceiving the nations anymore until the 1,000 years, there it is again, were ended. After that, he must be set free for a short time. Verse 4, I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given the authority to judge. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their testimony about Jesus, because of the word of God. So he sees the souls of the martyrs, okay? They had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received its mark on their foreheads or on their hands. They came to life, and listen to this, they came to life, so the dead, and they reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So there it is again, okay? The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. So you're seeing this like 1,000-year thing keeps coming up, right? All right, this is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy are those who share in the first resurrection. The second death has no power over them, but they will be priests of God in Christ and will reign with him for 1,000 years. And so there's this idea of Jesus reigning for 1,000. Okay, so what in the world does this mean for the return of Jesus? This is where the schools of thought on the end of the world, the return of Christ, come into play.
I'm just wondering, I'm just thinking about the listener who's new to their faith, and they're like, wait, Revelation says what?
Oh, buddy. Yeah. So, okay, just to simplify. All right. Is he being symbolic? He absolutely, spoilers, yes. Like he's because like John will say, this is this, or this is that. Like, so his words in Revelation have to do with presenting a theological idea as a word picture. That's not to say that he didn't have a vision. Could be just this is what the vision means. But everything that's written there is designed to teach you something. Okay. All right. So this is where we disagree. This is where, like, Christians, when we talk about the end of the world, these 4 main camps about Jesus's return come into play. Okay. So the first one's called premillennialism. All right. And we're going to have some fun. Oh, the fun theological words we're going to have today, Mark. Okay. Premillennialism. Okay. Because you figure millennium, 1,000. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So premillennialism. And this is the belief that Jesus will return before a literal 1,000-year reign or millennium on the earth. And so according to this view, like what will happen is that the world, like this is what they think, that the world will grow increasingly worse until Jesus returns to defeat evil, and then he establishes his kingdom, and he reigns on the earth for 1,000 years. And after that millennium, Satan, like the dragon that we read about in Revelation 20, will be released briefly to be defeated again, then the final judgment will occur. Okay, that's premillennialism. Now this has all kinds of variations within it, and there are two of them, like two main ones. Okay, so there are all kinds of the two big schools of thought with it are what's called historic premillennialism, which is Christians will endure a period of tribulation before Christ's return, and then there's what's called dispensational premillennialism. I know these are the words, dude. Okay, so just think dispensationalism. Okay, and this is a belief, and this is probably one of the most popular beliefs out there now about Jesus' return, because it advocates for what's called a pre-tribulation rapture. Okay, no, you're laughing, but this is in everything. All right, so think about like, have you ever heard of like Left Behind?
Yeah.
Right, and you got the idea of, okay, like they're believers, and suddenly one like Christians just disappear from the planet because Jesus secretly showed up and pulled Christians out before these terrible things on the earth happen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now here's the thing to realize with that. Like dispensational premillennialism is relatively new in Christian history and interpretation.
Huh.
It was propagated by a guy, like most famously, like most steam behind it, by a guy named John Nelson Darby in the 1820s and 1830s, which means prior to then, Christians never really read the Bible to mean what Darby asserted that it meant. Like, so this is very popular. And I'm not saying that's not true. This is not a podcast where I'm going to debate with anybody. I will just say, for me, this is a reason why I personally don't believe in it. Aside from how I read the scriptures, but this is a very, very popular viewpoint, which is, okay, if we're imagining what's going to happen, the earth is getting worse, and right before people go through a terrible trial of tribulation, meaning there's calamities, there's plagues, there's famines, there's all this stuff, Jesus shows up and he pulls Christians out so that they don't go through bad things, and then he comes back with the Christians at the end. All right, that's dispensational premillennialism. Okay. It's newer, but it's very, very popular. Okay, all right. So that's the first one, premillennialism. Now here's the next one, amillennialism. You sensing a theme with the 1,000-year thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So the thing to know with that is that they believe that the 1,000-year reign of Christ that's talked about in Revelation that we've read is symbolic, and it represents Jesus's spiritual reign through the church from the time of his departure until he returns. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So basically what they believe is that the millennium that's spoken about there, it's not a literal future event, but it's a symbolic period that's that began with Christ, like his first coming, his death and resurrection, and will continue through what's called the church age, the age that we live in now, and that Satan's defeat and Christ's 1,000-year rule, they're currently happening right now. But when Jesus returns, it'll mark the final judgment and renewal of all things. So this kind of versus the dispensationalism that we talked about, they believe like dispensationalism would basically say Jesus is coming back twice. Once is this hidden rapture, and the other is the big one that everybody sees. Mm-hmm. Amillennialism would say no, he comes back once, and that's the general resurrection of the dead and the final judgment. Questions so far? Are we tracking so far?
No.
Guys, I'm watching Mark's eyes like glaze over as I'm saying this stuff, so I'm just kind of like, man, to be fair, there are topics that sometimes we're passionate about and sometimes not.
Yeah. No, for me, like personally, I always kind of stray away from when you say there's 4 views of the end times, for us to talk about Jesus coming back.
Yeah.
I go, okay, do they all basically say he's coming back? Cool. Is any of this my responsibility? No.
Yeah, but
and then I just kind of let.
Okay, but just think about what's at stake, because there are drastic differences in your experience. So, for instance, the belief that God will take Christians out so they don't go through a tribulation. Uh-huh. That means that you would not go through an intense testing and suffering on the planet, or you will. See, like it's a big thing, and that's assuming you're alive when it happens, which. According to Jesus, no one knows the day or the hour, so nobody knows when he's coming back.
Well, and then my response to that would be, but neither of those are under my control.
Sure.
And what I think about it won't change what actually happens.
Yeah, but I think it will. Like what you here's what I've come to realize: what people believe about end times, like Christians, what they believe about end time stuff, colors a lot of the way that they experience life. So you'll find. I mean, how many people do you know where there's a news story and they're sharing it on Facebook of a natural disaster or a catastrophe? Oh, look, signs, Jesus is coming back.
Yeah,
and they're approaching it within a viewpoint that, all right, here's based on what I believe about the end of the world. This shows it. It confirms it, or for others, it denies it, or whatever. So we, if we look at it within the lens of hypothetical, and we're not going to know, okay. But for other folks, their view of the end times might be very steeped in terror, and so they're bracing for another shoe to fall that could be theoretically, categorically awful. It just depends, like how you view that can very much affect your present experience in life right now.
Yeah. And I guess it would change the way that, if you really believed Jesus was coming back and not everyone got to spend eternity with him, it would change the way you lived your life and the way that you interacted with other people.
110%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hear that. The way that I live my life, because you said it changes the way you live your life, is, I mentioned my diabetes earlier. I didn't choose that. It happened to me, and I get to choose how I react to what happens to me. And so it's kind of from that vein of like, I'm just kind of like along for the ride, like, oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Well, think of it like this. One thing that shows up across multiple teachings about Jesus's second coming is in Matthew 24:43, 1 Thessalonians 5:2, or 2 Peter 3:10. This idea that Jesus' return will be like a thief in the night. And that doesn't mean that nobody will know that it's happening, because you've got all these other passages that talk about this idea of, every eye seeing him and him coming in glory. But what it does mean is that it'll come suddenly. So the image is like, people are home and they're asleep and somebody breaks into the house and it's surprising. Nobody's expecting that. It's just boom, there it is, right? And Christians, as long as there have been Christians, have believed. I mean, you can find in every generation people believing, all right, we're the final generation.
Right.
And every generation from then until now has been wrong. But one generation will be right.
Right.
Okay? And as Christians, we are called to live like it's us.
Yeah.
We're called to live as though at any moment the Lord could return. That's not a fear thing. It's a joy thing. But it's also, it's fear in the sense of reverence for God. And I'm going to watch how I live. But that's there for all of us. That will, whatever generation it is that Jesus returns, and there will be signs, and how you interpret scriptures can give you some kind of lead into that. And yet it will be a surprising event. But and I would also just clarify one other thing too. If the scriptures are to be believed, as Acts 1:11, when Jesus leaves the earth, he goes up into heaven in a cloud, and two angels appear and say he'll come back in the way that he left. So Jesus' return is not going to be like this thing where he comes as a baby again, or it's very secretive. Like he will return in glory.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
So you talked about premillennialism,
and amillennialism.
Amillennialism.
Yeah.
Are there any more?
Oh, there are two more. Okay. Next would be post-millennialism. All right. So you got pre, you got now you got post, and post-millennialism is the idea that Jesus will return after a sort of a golden age, like the millennium. I think the 1,000 years that we heard about would be Christian influence on the earth. So the idea is that the millennium is a period in which the gospel will spread, and society will experience a categorical change of peace, prosperity, righteousness because of the influence of Christianity.
Wow.
And then after this golden age, Jesus will return to complete the final judgment and establish the new heavens and new earth.
It's occurring to me in this exact moment that I'm living my life among a huge mixed bag of premillennialism and amillennialism and postmillennialism. It's just interesting to think, I guess those two don't line up. They have to be one or the other, and I sort of believe a hybrid of both, which probably isn't possible.
Yeah, well, there are some people who they view it as this thing of like Jesus won't return until certain things happen. And so they see it kind of, I'll get to that. So just keep what you just said in mind there, because I think that's going to fit into other things. Okay. All right. So that leads to the last one. So, all right, so if you got pre, you got now you got post. The last one is called preterism. All right. And what it has to do with is this belief that most events in biblical prophecy around the end times were actually fulfilled in the past around 70 AD. So that, like, when you're reading stuff about Jesus' return and the end, stuff like that, that yeah, it was prophetic, but it already happened. Like, we're well past it.
Okay.
And so preterists think like, and they get this from like Matthew 24, where Jesus prophesies the destruction of Jerusalem, which happened in 70 AD. Right? You had the Romans come in and they sacked the city. They destroyed the temple, which Jesus prophesied would happen. And so preterists go like, look, this end time stuff was talking about that specific event, which happened. So they're about they're about events. These prophecies are about events in the church's history, not the distant future. And so what that means is that the second coming of Jesus to a preterist is either a spiritual event, which would be what's called full preterism, or still like there's a final event, or there's an event in the future, but basically everything else is already taken care of. So there are, and we talked about the tree branches having different kinds. So let me just clarify the difference between, I know, preterism, two different kinds of preterism: partial preterism and full preterism. Okay, so partial believes that most of it already happened, but some prophecies, like the second coming of Jesus and the final resurrection and the final judgment, are still future events. Okay, so like everything happened except for those things. A full preterist says, all right, look, all these events already happened, and everything is written as spiritual or symbolic. And usually full preterists don't believe Jesus is coming back in that sort of bodily in the sky everybody sees. But both of them interpret Revelation as talking about things that have already happened. So those are the big camps on views on the end times and return of Jesus.
Okay, so that's interesting. You've actually kind of made me a believer in loving some end times. Those are really interesting things that I'll have to think about more. But for the most part, Christians believe Jesus is coming back.
Yes, because he said that he would.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about this, but that's a good thing, right?
Oh, it's a great thing. So it's remember that there are prophecies of the Messiah, who Christians hold is Jesus. They talk about him coming and establishing what's called the day of the Lord. This is the Old Testament stuff. This term day of the Lord. And the day of the Lord is a time where God's vengeance and justice reign on the earth, where God rights all the wrongs. He undoes, in some prophecies, he undoes the effects of the fall. And so Christians long for the return of Jesus. Revelation says it like this, that he'll wipe every tear from our eyes, right? So the idea is Jesus' return. His first coming was one of our redemption, saving us, bringing us from spiritual death to life, where we were sinners. Now we become saints because of what he's done for us. He's changed our hearts and made us subjects of his new kingdom by dying for us. When he returns in his kingship, I think everybody would agree on this, that the reason he has waited is because he's bringing about the full number of people to be saved. And then when that's done, he returns. And that number is known only to him. It's what, Revelation will talk about this, and other places we're talking about like Lamb's Book of Life. The Book of Life, all whose names were written in it were admitted into heaven. And there's whole other bits of interpretation stuff with that. But But regardless, the idea is that we long for the day that Jesus returns and conquers evil. Like he's saved us from our sins, but he'll end evil.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And, as we kind of wrap this up, the book of Revelation, if I've learned anything in my 15, 20 years, I don't know how long it's been, that I've been a Christian, it's that if you want to avoid arguing with people, you just don't bring up Revelation.
At Thanksgiving, you don't bring up politics or Revelation.
That's
Got
right.
it. Okay.
But so as we talked about the the fact that Jesus is coming back, and we've referenced these scriptures, 4 different thoughts on main views on end times. We may have said something that you're kind of like, wait, what? I don't believe that. Or so there's definitely kind of a wide net that we've tried to cover with this episode. But if you do have questions or a suggestion for a future episode of the podcast, you can let us know at podcast@wearethebridge.org. Thanks for listening.